Thanks for staying with us. So a story caught our attention yesterday. It's about a lady identified as Toyosi who has been detained by men of the Lagos State Police Command for raising false alarm on Twitter on being kidnapped and raped. Now, this tweet went viral and generated diverse reactions from social media users who were all worried about her safety. She has, however, revealed in a follow-up tweet that her statement was false and she has apologized. Now, if we can link this to the story of the young girl, the young doctor who was on the train, right? And she was saying that people have been shot and around her, and then somebody tweeted and said, you're a liar.
She had been shot.
She had been shot, yes. She had tweeted that she had been shot. And then somebody tweeted that you're a liar. And people then went for her. So when that kind of things happen, you can see why people say, there's this trust issue, just like our last guest just said. We don't trust anybody. You know, everybody's in to get something. And here we are in this situation. So what are your thoughts on this? How best can we deal with a situation like this? What should the police do? And do we therefore agree with the Minister of Information, who has been clamoring for a social media bill? You know, we're trying to see how they can review, because Nigerians then thought they're trying to gag the press by regulating social media. But we're seeing more of these things, that we need some kind of regulation to stop these kind of people. What are your thoughts when you saw the story, and how best do you think this could have been handled? Because she's been detained right now.
Yeah, so for me, you know, this thing they say when you cry wolf, when at the end of the day, the wolf comes, nobody comes out to help you. This lady must have seen how we tore people down for not listening to the lady who tweeted on the train, for not believing her, for making light of her pain. Everybody came at it. And after a few weeks, you now decide to go and do this. So it's either the lady in question is not mentally okay. Aside from seeking for clout, there are several other ways that you can seek for clout, which does not have to affect the general public. You can go on your page and dance. You can just do something if you want that attention. You know how to get it, those young people out there, and we see what they put out. But for you to make this kind of false call for help because you were playing, that's like, I just want to see what Nigerians would do. I just want to see the reaction of Nigerians. I think that something is wrong with her. I think that she should be punished severely to deter other young people from playing this sort of pranks. She should be made an example of. And this is not also about whether we should regulate social media or not. I think we should take out, when things happen, let's pick them in isolation and deal with the issues. Okay. If we say let's regulate generally, we do not have the modalities to do that right now, so let's leave that. This person should be made an example of. If you make an example of her, other people may not want to do this because, wow, this time around, nobody goes on social media to raise false claims. So let me tell you the sort of punishment I would like for her.
We'll come back to the punishment a bit later.
Okay.
What are your initial thoughts when you saw it?
I said they had to check her for her mental capacity. Is she okay? Is she 2? Is she 3? Because these are the things we tell our own children when they're growing up. I also remember times my mom had, as a child, corrected me for things like that. So you expect that at a certain age, there's some things you just know you should not do, except if you're not all complete there. So I'm happy with the way that this was immediately handled. She was arrested, and that we got to hear about that arrest as well. So someone who thought that was a good idea knows quickly and immediately that this is where you might end up. I agree as well that she needs to be made an example of, taught a lesson. So for me, it's not go and lock her up somewhere. See, she will go from school to school. She will say she will sweep, you know, her community. She will come on Twitter. She will spend time on Twitter educating people on the things to do on Twitter and how not to use Twitter. And I also am in the category of those who think it's high time we regulated social media. There has to be, a regulation is not only about, it's not about gagging, as you said, you know, in the first place. It's really about telling people what the modalities are, what the ethics of the use of these spaces, and what the punishment is if you misuse it. So that's the way I feel that we should start looking at it.
Wars have been started from,
from fake news.
Yes, fake news. Yes, so these are things that need to be properly done so that we don't put ourselves and burn down this country. But what are your thoughts on this initial?
My initial thought was attention-seeking. My initial thought was mental instability. My initial thought was crime. So social media regulation isn't necessarily about social media regulation. It's about, we have enough laws, let there be justice. Because when we have justice, we have less people believing they can get away with things. Impunity thrives where there is no justice. somebody will try this because they feel like I can do it and get away with it. So don't allow her to get away with it. And when that happens, less people will be open to doing that. It's not new that people would falsify their own kidnapping to generate attention, because they feel like people would know, maybe my parents are not taking care of me. Let me say I've been kidnapped. Oh, I need to raise money. Let me say this happened to me. That has happened before. But what will reduce it from happening again is when there is stiff punishment carried out to anybody who does it, regardless of if anybody is pressing charges or not. So I'm happy with the arrest. I'm happy that we're following through with it, because it's beyond this one. There are many people who come out and lie.
And but for the sake of those who are not lying,
for what she just said about, it's not the first time that people have done this, but it's usually contained around those who are related to them or have something to do. But with Twitter, that's why I feel that there has to be regulation. It's millions of people at once that you're telling lies about or telling lies to, and you know what that multiplier effect can be. So that's why I really believe that regulation is the way to go.
so when we talk about young people and clout chasing and trying to get attention, why is this market for clout chasing so important? These like young people do everything. Some go totally naked. Some go, they do the most bizarre things just to get these numbers, just to get this attention, just to get. When did this start?
So, yeah, the society thrives on seeking validation from the outside. We have, let me use the word, failed at raising young people who validate themselves. We have failed at raising young people who understand the values that they have. You know, at the time that we were growing up, we didn't have this much social media to distract us. So your parents will tell you you have to go to school, you have to make sure you have your grades right, and every other thing will be sorted. And for those who went into school, everybody focused on, let me at least get my grades right so that I can be something. For those who focused on business, you could see the hard work. And the society wasn't as rotten as it is now, where we promote things that bring in the numbers. So if you want to make anything, if you want to do anything, so right now I'm putting up a proposal, because I want to be able to put my Mama Ejiro series on TV. And the companies are asking me for the numbers. I don't have the numbers yet. This is my first. So where will I generate the numbers from if you do not give me that opportunity? So tomorrow night, it's okay, because they didn't give me the numbers, I could have a fine body. Let me go and naked it and get the numbers, because everybody wants the numbers. So the way the society is structured is all about what we can gain, our personal interest, and everybody wants to gain something from everybody. And so you see people forgetting who they are, willing to do whatever it is to make ends meet, to sell themselves for the numbers, because once you have the numbers, there are people who
Revenue.
Do you know why a lot of people want to go to BBN? Because they want to get the numbers. So they go there and showcase, get the numbers, and for those who are level-headed, will now use the numbers to do better things. But not everybody will have the opportunity to go to that sort of platform. So we have failed at helping validate our children, and we as a society has failed at focusing on the right things, focusing on the things that we want. So we all claim we want the best brains, we want science, we want STEAM, we want that, but we don't support science, we don't support STEAM, we don't support education, we don't support the best brains. So we need to sit up.
You're so right, because that's where I was going. The reason why we are all about clout chasing is because what society has decided to celebrate. Who are we celebrating? Why are we celebrating them? And for what is it that we're celebrating them? So I remember when the Kardashians first came out, and a lot of those who were like who were actors, you know, who had put in the work, who had used their talent, who would say that they had paid the dues, did not find it funny with reality show people, because they kept saying, you're famous for being famous. So you did not do the work that is supposed to. So, okay, so a celebrity would be that I had my talent and I'd put in the work over years. I have put in the sweat and the tears, and then the accolades would come from that, you know. The celebration will come from that. That is why you're a celebrity. But now we have a life where it's about how you arrange yourself in a certain way.
It's a new world,
and
Maria.
yes, that's where I'm going. So that is where we are right now. So what we're celebrating, people will seek those things. So we as a society now have to start thinking differently. We now have to make better decisions. Who do we celebrate? Who are we uplifting? Who are we supporting? What are the values really that we're supporting? Now what we're supporting is just be out there and just be seen. We're supporting attention seekers. We're supporting the person that speaks the loudest even if there's no content. So those are the things that would make someone who is looking at this world and coming up and thinking, I want to be famous. You hear people say, I want to be famous now. Before you be, I want to be on TV to do this, or I want to be a musician to sell my music. But now everybody's just, I want to be famous, and it does not matter how I become famous.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll open our phone lines. Stay with us, right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We'll take a few messages on social media.
Okay. So I was going to contribute to the conversation before we take messages, and I'm of the opinion that the world has changed, and many of us sit on the fence of proper without understanding that the world is changing before our eyes. Our children and our young ones are being shaped by social media in terms of what they should do. So the system, and it's psychologically backed up with the fact that people like the feeling of receiving likes. People like the feeling of receiving comments. People like the feeling of seeing that a lot of people like what I'm doing. I got 1 million views on my video. My video went viral. And the feeling is so good that it's like you're using drugs. And it's been likened to drugs. So people actually have withdrawal syndrome and show symptoms of people that have gone through drug addiction from just being away from social media space. So what we're facing and dealing with is beyond just thinking by talking and by counseling we can relate with it. It goes far beyond that. So when government is talking about social media censoring, I think that the government is just talking from the place of, my opinion, I don't want you to attack me. I don't want anybody to come against what the government is doing. But if we dig deep, we realize that we must preserve our children, we must preserve our future by protecting them from the entirety of the ills that social media represents.
Protect them by not burning down this country.
When Europe was censoring social media, they were the ones that made social media start saying, you can hide your like counts, because they realized the effect it was having. Right. So we must go beyond just thinking it is a political thing. There is psychological effects. People are carrying out, they're killing themselves just because of fame on social media.
Let me take this call from Michael. Good morning, Michael. Are you there? From Switzerland. You're live.
Oh.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. First time caller. Switzerland. I'm sure we have Switzerland.
I just want to contribute about the
It's not very clear.
Noise.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Would have loved to have that call. Yes. So,
okay,
more messages? Yes.
Yeah, so John Ibinu says, for me, we will regulate simply by ensuring before gaining access to these social media platforms, they should be directed government platforms to log in using their NIN. These verification will ensure government can recognize and trace such people. Then people who commit crime or spread fake news can be arrested and also be taxed for the income generated from YouTube, etc. No NIN, no social media access. That's
another angle, because I mean, I know recently in the UK, they arrested a Nigerian who was creating false news. I think it was mobilizing, inciting comments on social media. You know? So these are things in other countries, they are all clamoring to regulate somehow to ensure that they can reduce the enormity of this negativity that we see on social media. But I'm told that Michael is back now. Michael, are you still there? Yes, go ahead. Now we can hear you better. Go ahead.
All right, okay. Thank you very much. The issue of social media and addiction to social media has become like it's something that is so bad now in our country that anybody can do anything just to be relevant. And it's becoming, I think a lot of people need some psychological check and counseling. In fact, a lot of our youth And I still want to say something very important here. I actually want to comment on the whole rape alarm and the whole forced kidnap. Okay, fine. I'm very sure they actually arrested her because of the forced kidnap claims. But the issue is nobody's still talking about the whole rape alarm. This is a very big issue too. People actually can actually just say anything about rape, and this is a very sad situation because we are fighting every day to make sure that.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much for taking us there, because that's another very important aspect of this conversation, which is the fact that young girls have a quarrel with their boyfriends or with their dating partner, and then they go online and say, oh, he raped me. And they put marks. I mean, I know somebody that, I saw a video, I don't know the person personally, but she hit her head with a stone. And took a picture. It was on WhatsApp. She sent it to the group. So she was sending it out to the women's group that I belong in. And the woman went on saying, oh my goodness, my niece or something she's been hit by her husband. Please, what do we do? You know? And there was this alarm, and everybody in the group was worried. He did this to her. He raped her. Just for the final that later, the girl, she cooked up the entire story. Because they arrested the boy. They took the girl to the police. The police had an investigation. The boy was nowhere close to where the girl was. They just had an argument. And he walked away. And then she came up with all these bruises and then said he raped her. So these things happen. As much as we want social media to help us project this crime so that we can arrest them, but I say that it's being used also to perpetrate lies against others.
A lot of people are mad.
Now go back to this psychological issue.
No, but it's true, yes. That's the bane of everything we're talking about today. It's a lot of people are mad.
But what's causing the
Unfortunately, no, hold on. Some people are wired mad.
From social media is also causing it too.
Social media, that's one. This issue of rape now had nothing to do with social media. Lying against somebody. So you're bearing false witness. Even the scriptures, those of you that go to church, understand that you should not bear is a sin in the scriptures. So you're lying against somebody because you want an outcome. You want to be able to control an outcome and you're not getting it. And so you resort to lies. Most people are mad, and we need to begin to evaluate our mental health. We don't pay attention enough to our mental health. When you notice that there's a way this person is behaving that is really not normal, please check that person in somewhere where they can evaluate that person.
They won't go.
We need to pay attention to this. We always feel it's the physical things that matter. The inside matters more than the physical.
Let me take this call from Bukumi. Bukumi, are you there? Oh, I'm so sorry for keeping you. I do apologize.
You know, you're right what you have said about just mental health, but I think another part of this conversation would be that we need to do our due diligence when we hear stories and make sure, just for the sake of just
checking,
that we check that this story is real, is true, and that all parties are heard and properly and unbiasedly investigated. Because we have seen, we have heard, we have been shocked by someone who would come on and cry and the whole world would surround that person. But the innocent person is actually the one that's been vilified and lied upon. So, you know, sometimes when I hear things like that, I just say, God, please protect us from our enemies that come in shape of family, friends, and, you know, because it takes a time. By the time you have to even work through trying to clear your name and everything, so much damage has been done. And I don't know if it's a jail term or an apology that can take care of what that person has done. It's a really serious matter. And so I would say for children, for parenting, let's start teaching them right. Bearing false witness is not only a sin, it's a crime. And then we hope for those who are a little older would learn from other people's story. You cannot do that. And there has to be also a serious punishment for someone who does that, so that that person will be a lesson to others who may be thinking to do things in that way.
Let me take this call from Free. Free, are you there?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I saw the video on Twitter and I was just baffled, like the extent that people would go using for Clout. And it was really irritating. It brings back the story of the fan who believes that died on the train. And because of people like this, that people didn't take her seriously. They thought she was just saying it for Clout. And unfortunately, she passed. So I think there should be a punishment for people like this. But at the same time, I don't think regulating social media is the answer to everything. I feel like parents are very quick to blame bad behavior of their kids on social media and say, oh, it's what they see on social media, it's what they hear on social media. I feel like the right upbringing should start from your household. You don't always have to put it on social media. And we're talking about them regulating social media. Let's remember that China regulated their media. They don't have Instagram and all those other things. But people still find a way to bypass it. They use VPN, they use other means, and they still go on there. They still see things. So I don't think regulating social media is the answer to everything. And we even asking the government to regulate social media, I feel like that's the beginning of dictatorship, because it starts from there. Tomorrow is going to be more than social media. They want to start controlling everything else. And
Free, let me stay on you. Let me stay on you for a minute, because I hear you, and that's a valid argument. But others will also argue that there are issues of hate speeches. Many wars have started just by false information. Many issues within countries where national security matters happen just by one tweet. So in that kind of situation whereby our own democracy is still quite fragile, we don't have a system where we can actually trace and know that, okay, this is where this information is coming from. So don't you think that we should somewhat regulate it to ensure that people don't just take advantage, just tweet anything and cause a problem? One person, for example.
And if we regulate it, what's the guarantee that those same people cannot find a way to still bypass it? That's what I'm saying.
That's a trust. So it's a trust issue.
Easy. They regulated Twitter, but people could still use VPN to access Twitter.
All right, fantastic.
So I don't think that's the answer to everything. So I just wanted to contribute that.
Thank you, Free.
May I quickly add that in these sort of cases, you don't take away people's choices. You only teach them how to handle those choices. Because if you take it away in one hand, they will meet it again. So it's like you are raising your children, and you are shielding and protecting them, and you do not give them an opportunity to explore, to know if what you have taught them have entered their head. So you raise your child right, you raise yours, I raise mine. And the world of social media is there. We can't run away from it, and we expose them to it. How they behave is a reflection of what we have taught them. And sometimes you need to learn certain things early so that you can be able to, redirect them in another way. So if you take out the choice because you do not want the outcome, they will find that choice somewhere else and they will get it.
Hey, okay, go ahead.
Yes. So I think a lot of people, when they hear regulate social media, especially because when we started talking about regulation of social media, it came on the back of when youth had raised their voice, to demand for, justice.
Governance.
So I think for the Nigerian youth, the moment we hear regulate social media is, oh, they want to gag us, they want so that we don't say, but it's more than that. It's even away from that. It's not about gagging anyone, but really about making sure that we follow, like some guidelines have to be put so that when we use social media, we use it positively, and then anyone that uses it negatively can be prosecuted, arrested, whatever. So people would say drug use now. Don't regulate drug use. It's a free choice. Do you understand? But we have an NDLEA that has to regulate it because some people would use hard drugs. They will take advantage of lack of regulation. Government is there really to put a system in place to make sure that, whatever it is that you are or whoever it is that you are from your different homes, government offers a central place where you can be yourself following the guidelines so that the general peace and safety and security of that nation is safeguarded. So that's what government is meant to do. Now, forget our own personal issues with our own government, issues of trust and things like that, but that is what government is. So regulation is important for everyone, even for these youths. They need,
that's why we have a constitution. Let me take this call. Ade has been holding for a while. Good morning, are you there?
Good morning. Happy Good Friday to all of you.
Yes, happy Good Friday.
Yes,
yeah, the danger about this lady's attitude is this. God forbid, if paraventure in future, somebody raped her, if she went to the police, she can't win the case. Yeah. Or another girl, something like that happened to another person, it's better go to the police. The rapist will tell the police that, not to see the tell lie, look at the other girl the other day, she tell lie. So it's a very dangerous thing. So this girl must be punished for what she has done.
Thank you very much. We're going to wrap up on this.
Yeah, I like Ade's opinion, and it's like what I said earlier, justice. Impunity, people would commit crime. NDLEA is there. Does that mean they're not still bringing in drugs? But when there is justice, it reduces the predisposition of human beings to do what human beings do, which is to disobey.
Yes.
So justice should happen to this girl, whichever way the law predicts it. More justice should be meted out publicly to people who commit crimes like this so that we reduce issues of slander. And honestly, I feel terrible when we hear stories of people lying against the other person and it is done publicly. We need to prosecute. My pastor did something a few years back where somebody reprinted his book. And they were like, oh, you're a pastor. You should not take the person to court. He took the printing company in Nigeria to court and ensured there was justice and it was publicly meted out, because many people suffer because we feel like, let's leave it to God.
Yes,
let me just keep quiet. You might not come on social media to come and make noise, but go to the court. This person has committed a crime against me. I will take you to court.
As a wrap on this, I remember the insurrection that happened in the US. It's a reminder that there's madness everywhere.
Everywhere is justice.
Human beings are not well regulated. We don't have laws. People will do just anything. Anything can be abused if there's no proper guidelines. So I think, yes, we don't want them to gag. We don't want them to stop up for freedom of expression, which is actually not absolute. They said that freedom of speech is not absolute. Yes, they can still regulate it somewhat, because you can't just say anything. Hate speech is not freedom of speech. But the point is, these things must be regulated so that we can have a sane society, as Miriam said earlier. If not, we'll just have chaos. Okay, that's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, we'll move on to another hot topic. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.